love you? Do we hate you? Why should you care? Cause we're the best damn review team out there. It's time to rate that album.
Hi, welcome back to Rate That Album, a back and forth album review between myself, Joseph Fremming, and my good friend Paul Muad'Dib. Paul, submission is a gift. Give it to your brother.
I'm a mechanical man, Joe.
Well, that's because London Bridge is falling down, Paul.
Oh my God, we did a thing.
Yeah, this week, you kind of opened the floodgates, Paul, with R. Kelly by letting us do problematic artists. And this one I've been kind of kicking around for a while in my head. And I figured, why not? We'll just cram it in between two requests. We're doing Lie by one Charles Manson. Paul?
Uh-huh.
Before we get into this,
Uh-huh.
what do you know about one Charles Miles Manson? Paul, going into this, I think most people know. If you're listening to this, like I didn't do a disclaimer, because if you're going into a podcast listening about the album Lie by Charles Manson, I'm pretty sure you already know what he was.
Yeah.
Paul, remember in high school when they made us watch the Geraldo interview with Charles Manson for no reason?
For no reason. Joe, fuck. It was... I knew of Charles Manson because even back in the day, my family member, a family member of mine, my mother, was already like ahead of the curve when it came to like real like we now all women. It's so sexist.
Whoa. Well, I'm obsessed with true crime. Let's just say it wasn't Helter Skelter.
Yes.
By Vincent Bugliosi, the prosecuting attorney who put the Manson family in prison. That was a wildly popular book. It wasn't like this was an underground thing. Like Charles Manson and his family were in the ether as long as, our entire lives. Yeah.
I mean, I knew of it because I remember seeing the cover of the book. And then my sister.
You're like, why did he write a book about this slide that the Beatles wrote a song about?
And that was the thing. Like, I thought it was, like, again, younger, I thought it was like a Beatles documentary. So my sister started getting into the Beatles when I was 4 years younger than her. So she got into the Beatles when she was about 14, 15. So I would have been 10, 11. And I would really idolize my sister. I asked my mom if I could read the book about the Beatles. And she was like, it's not a book about the Beatles. And then I started asking about, and she didn't want me reading the book. She thought the book was too graphic. But there was like on like cable or something, there was some like Hollywood story, that there was always. I mean, Charles Manson has been so documented, but it wasn't. What was interesting to me, Joe, was it wasn't until I was much, 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 much older that I understood like the why. I knew he did these things and it was a cult, but I didn't understand the white supremacy behind it. Like that was left out of a lot of documentaries that were done. It was just like, oh my God, they were crazy and killed people. It wasn't until much later that the documentaries started coming out and being like, no, this fucker was trying to start a race war.
Yeah. And the weird, I didn't read Helter Skelter until I was like 19, 20. And, I'm fascinated with the Manson family. Like I gotta say, I don't condone what they did. It's just a really fucked up story. It's something that really happened. It's been like in the pop culture ether our entire lives. Like we pretty much were aware, probably even in elementary school, that Charles Manson pretty much represented evil. in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were like, that's how big his shadow loomed still by the 1980s. Like America had still not gotten over the horror that him and his gaggle of chuckleheads brought down.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, and there's still to this day, we don't know all of them.
Yeah, to this day, they don't know how many victims the Manson
Mhm.
family are responsible for. They don't know if all the victims were even found. Yeah. So, long story short, for the one person's like, who the fuck are they talking about? Charles Manson in the late '60s started a cult in Los Angeles, and in 1969, he ordered his followers to go to the house of Sharon Tate and murder everybody. And then the next night, he sent them out again to kill more people. And it shook the country. It shook Los Angeles, especially. And so, well, I'm going to get into it, but Manson was known to a lot of celebrity type people. He ran in circles. So I'm going to kind of just get into a little bit of a brief history, Paul.
Please, just do it. Just you know what? You don't even have to go brief. I did an hour with R. Kelly. Run the gamut, sir.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could talk about Manson for hours. Again, I'm just fascinated by I've read books and all sorts of shit. Like,
it's a fascinating story.
It's just fascinating. So, like, his early years, like, he had a rough life, but I wouldn't say he had it more rough than others that turned out perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
He spent most of his teenage years incarcerated, 20s mostly, almost exclusively incarcerated. Prison was what he knew. And so there's a couple factors which leads to how he was able to cultivate a cult. In prison, he was picking up, he was very, he was learning,
Mm-hmm.
he learned how to be a better criminal in prison, Paul. I think that's a lot of people who've been in prison will tell you that's not uncommon.
It's not. It's regardless of what your ideas are on prison reform, things like that. Let's be blunt. You put people in prison, they're going to learn from each other, and they're going to trade stories, and they're going to go, "This is how I got away with this. Well, this is how I get away." I mean, it's par for the course.
Okay. Yep. And so I will say there's three things that he learned in prison. One, he learned a lot from pimps. He learned from pimps how to, pick out and find damaged women. Not broken women. They'd always tell him that broken women, too much work. Find the damaged ones. Well, he found a little bit of both when he started his family.
Mm-hmm.
But he learned how to keep them keep them dependent on him. And things he picked up here, he would do with his family. Like, they were never allowed to have money, because that way they could never leave. He would control, like, whether his family could, what they listened to, and he basically isolated them for a couple of years, just so he could have complete control over them. The other thing he learned in prison was a program called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Oh my God. That fucking.
So it's basically like, you were in sales, so you're like, basically, I'm sure if you don't know the Dale Carnegie thing, you at least are aware of what spread out from it. Basically telling people what they want to hear.
Yep.
And all that, just selling. It's basically sell. And you're selling yourself, so people like you.
You're selling the whole thing, and because I've had to read it for several, even though I've been in sales for a long time, and several like, I'm like, I have
with the Dale Carnegie I threw at you.
No, I mean, and the thing is true with Dale with Dale Carnegie, is it is exactly that. It's the sales format of you sell yourself before the product. It's the idea of you get people to buy into you, and they like you, then you win. And that's
building
really
the business
ultimately
relationships.
it doesn't need to be a fucking how long book it is. It really just need to be one paragraph. Fucking get them to do it. So
See, in prisons in the 50s, they had courses, Dale Carnegie course that Manson took part in. So he's learning from pimps. He's learning from Dale Carnegie. And the third thing, Paul, is Scientology. Yeah. He was a Scientologist in prison. At least he claimed he was. He would go to the seminars and all that. And he was absorbing all this he's in his 20s, so he's absorbing all this. For everything that Manson was, he wasn't stupid. He was very smart in certain areas, very fucking stupid in others, and very let's face it, he was sociopath, psychotic, probably bipolar, based off. When we get to the music, there's definitely parts where it seems like he's going in a manic phase. So he's picking all this up. He's learned all this in prison. In 1967, he's going to be paroled, and he begs them to not let him out. Begs them. Because at this point, he's had the only structure in his life that he's had is in a prison. He does not know how to function outside. He has no idea how to function. He tells them, I'm going to end up breaking laws and I'll be back in here. And they're like, yeah, well, when you do that, we're all here, Fucking 23 skidoo, buddy.
So, real quick on that, there's a guy, I'm not going to say his name, that you and I know that was basically, once we graduated high school, he did everything he could to get back in the prison. He even at one point brought a gun into court and threatened the judge to make sure that he got a longer sentence because he couldn't live outside of, he became so institutionalized he couldn't do it.
And there's just some people that are like that. We talked about this a little bit last week, and as much as we think there's rehabilitation for people and there's ways to help people, Manson was one of those people who was just born with a glitch in their brain. From what I've read, like even when he was like disciplined and like given structure as a child, he still broke all the rules. He didn't care because that would probably fall into his psychopathy, his sociopathic tendencies. He knew right and wrong. He didn't give a shit.
Exactly. Yes.
So now we have a perfect storm brewing because, there's another influence he picks up in prison, Paul, the Beatles. He becomes obsessed with the Beatles. Not because of their music. He wants fame. He was telling people in prison he wanted to be bigger than the Beatles.
Oh, well.
It gave him, but here's the thing. So he started playing guitar and music, and his behavior in prison was actually going better. Now he was focused on music instead of causing trouble.
Yeah.
But here's the perfect storm. He's released in 1967, the Summer of Love, and he finds himself in Berkeley and San Francisco, Oakland area. He has all the stuff he's just learning. LSD is everywhere. Flower children are out. And he just falls face first into this this new culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he totally embraces it. What he's seeing gurus pop up. And here's the thing: when you're on LSD or whatever, it changes your thinking and how you view things. And that was probably another potent thing in his arsenal, was unlocking that part of his brain.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got this con artist tendencies. He grew up with a very religious grandmother, so he knew scriptures. He starts combining all this weird shit he learned in prison from Dale Carnegie, Scientology, the Beatles, and Christianity. And he becomes one of probably hundreds of gurus in San Francisco at this time. He's not really standing out. But he keeps finding women who are just fall for it. You know, and here's the thing: like if you're a con artist, you don't need to have everybody fall for it. You just need someone to fall for it, and he keeps finding these people. Now, why am I retreading this? Well, he's starting his family. He's starting his family. In prison, he met a guy. It was actually the producer of the Lie album, Paul. His name is Phil Kaufman.
God damn it. Phil
Kaufman told him in prison, because he was kind of impressed with Charlie's music, that he had a guy in L.A. and he should see him at Universal Records or whatever. And Manson calls a guy up after he's cultivated his family, he's working on songs. Then he brings them all to Los Angeles. So they migrate from San Francisco to LA. And it doesn't go well for him, Paul.
No.
He's not focused. Mm-mm. He won't. And this is the thing with him in the studio. He's brought in the studio a few times, and he's not, because he's got these people in his family, men and women, so believing that he can't do wrong. He can't take any cues from an engineer. So if he's too far away from the mic and they say, hey, Charlie, you want to get closer to the mic? It's no.
Oh, my God. Joe, I've been in studios. You don't fucking do that.
No, but he knew better. Charlie knows better. And I'm not going to claim I know the psychology of Charles Manson. I think part of him believed his bullshit, but I think deep down inside, another part of him knew this was just a fucking con. He's a con artist, but that kind of goes with his mental illness. You can believe two things at once.
And that's a big thing with, I think people lose sight of with con artists, is they really, a lot of them do believe. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to believe the lie to sell it. Part of you has to be successful. And he was successful.
I mean, look at Theranos. She totally believed her lie. I mean, she knew it's a confusing concept, but yes, they were lying. Yes, they knew they were lying, but they also were believing their own lie.
Yeah, well, even so, backtrack a few years after Red Helter Skelter 9/11 happened. So I'm reading about Bin Laden, and it's very similar how he got his father.
Very similar.
The same, like it's a mix of, grievances and fears with religious bastardization of religion. I mean, it's a tale as old as time. I mean, people have always, I'm not a religious person, and I think people who have their religious beliefs, that's great. But then there's these twisted fucks that just manipulate it and bring it to a whole level. Anyway, so Manson, he's kind of struggling because he wants this record deal. He wants to be bigger than the Beatles, Paul. Mm-hmm. One day, two of his members are hitchhiking, and they're picked up by none other than Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys, Paul. 60, I believe it's 68. They spend an entire summer at Dennis Wilson's cabin, where, to his estimation, cost him $100,000, and that's in 1968 money. So, I
got a point.
Do you want to look that up, Paul?
No,
$100,000 in 68 would be.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Well, okay, I'll look that up.
Like close to $1 million, I'd imagine.
I think that's over. I think that's
look
over.
It up, Paul. You got Google.
I do got Google.
I'm going to keep talking. Well,
but I want to bring this up because this is not something. Oh no, it's a little under. It's about $800. It's about $871,000 back in '68.
He's a beach boy. He has money, but he got in trouble with it because a lot of it was being written off by the Beach Boys. Had just started a record label called Brothers, and so all these expense reports are coming in. Like, Dennis, what the fuck is going on? It's like, oh yeah, I got this guy here, Charlie. This harem of women.
Yeah, so I want to bring this up because this is I find this ironic, and we've done Pink Floyd and Roger Waters, and I don't think we're ever going to get to this. For one of the songs in the Wall, Pink Floyd in the 80s reached out to the Beach Boys and said, in the 70s reached out to the Beach Boys and said, would you do this song? And they're like, no, tarnish our image. Tarnish are fucking it. You fucking Charlie. Okay.
Their image is way tarnished before that. That was laughable even without Charles Manson in the equation. Like, yeah, their image was pretty not good.
No.
Even with the Manson connection. So, but now Manson's making these connections with the music industry outside, the guy at Universal. Dennis is impressed with him. There's other artists, like Neil Young met him in Topanga Canyon, and he was like, this guy is really good, but even nobody can get him a record deal, Paul. Because part of it's also his fault because he's not he's not focusing on the songs. We'll get into this when we talk about the songs. There's elements here where I can see a minor hit song, but he's just fucking going in manic mode. So he's like he was his own worst enemy, more ways than one. So, one of these people is Terry Melcher. I'm not going to go into the murders. He lived on Cielo Drive, where he lived there. And then Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski moved in after him. Manson knew the place, and he thought that was. It's unclear if he knew if Melcher still lived there or not. I think he didn't know, and I don't think he cared when he sent the people out, the family out to kill there. I think it was more of a statement anyway, but also put a little fear into Terry Melcher. Melcher was a producer, record producer, big shot record producer in the 60s. Mm-hmm. And yeah, but he's his growing frustration, Paul. Because there
was growing frustration, Joe.
His growing frustration. And here's the thing. He wasn't too far away from actually getting signed to a record deal. He's palling around with the Beach Boys. Like, he recorded tracks that were produced by Brian and Carl Wilson that are allegedly, I believe Dennis Wilson burned them. Saying that evil vibes.
The 60s were a wild time, dude.
Oh man, like Charlie. Yeah, man. So like it's this era. He's batting around, and this is where a lot of these recordings are coming from for the Lie album. It's just like these times in the studio and doing demos and cutting demos for people. Like he came he came closer than I ever did to a record deal, Paul. Like, you got a little further than Charlie, but
I did get a little further than Charlie.
You weren't palling around with Mike Love or anything.
I mean, all it takes is one dick suck and you can get a record deal. That's your fault, Charlie.
Charlie, yes.
Charlie.
But yeah, his friendship with Dennis becomes pretty contentious to the point where the Beach Boys covered a song on this album, Cease to Exist, except they changed the title to Never Learn Not to Love and changed the lyrics. And then Dennis took full songwriting credit for it because he figured Charlie owed him. Oh. And like you said, adjusted for inflation, $860,000, I think. Whatever minor royalties Dennis got from that, it was more than fair.
More than fair.
More than fair for Charlie. I mean, I don't think Dennis got ahead on that deal.
What's a fucking $1 million? Jesus Christ. $871,000.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was like doctor's bills, like all the girls and guys kept getting BD and shit. Like,
oh my God.
Oh man, that's the 60s.
It was BD, the gift that keeps on giving.
BD's the gift, give it to your brother. And so as these frustrations mount, then Manson's still working on songs, but he's more focused on his cult. They end up at Spawn Ranch. Then after Spawn, he tries to bring him out to Death Valley. It's kind of an uproar amongst the family members he brought out there because it was so far in the middle of nowhere. he was starting to lose control over a lot of things. There was no food. Imagine in the middle of the desert and abandoned towns, there's no food for them.
Funny how
he did have a steady supply of drugs. One of the daily rituals was LSD trips. I couldn't imagine tripping every fucking day.
Oh my God, Joe, the mental exhaustion. I mean,
there's a point where your brain just won't allow you to trip.
Yeah,
it's just won't let you. I mean, but yeah, that's mentally exhausting. Yeah, so he had to bring them all back to Spawn Ranch, and the rest is history. His frustrations boil over. His philosophy morphs into like this weird apocalyptic race war that you brought on with Helter Skelter. Like he became upset. He was obsessed with the Beatles with the White Album. He started incorporating into his really fucked up philosophy. Like he thought he was Rocky Raccoon Paul. Like, and it's eerie to, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, when you find out the story, like after Susan Atkins is the one who flips on him, like Sexy Sadie has a whole different kind of vibe to it.
Oh my God.
What have you done? You made a fool of everyone.
Oh my God.
But like, it's just like, it's those loose connections combined with, the drug use and all that. I mean, people are starting to believe his lies, and he's controlling, and he's racist, and he's contradictory. And like, yeah, and it boils over until they start acting on violence. And then they were put away for the rest of their goddamn lives.
Rightfully
and
so.
Thank God Sharon Tate's sister goes to their parole meetings to make sure none of the members ever get out.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but wonder if Vince Biligosi never wrote Helter Skelter, if Manson would not be as famous as he eventually became. Like, I think it might have been a footnote in the summer in the late 60s, but I think the book really put that in overdrive.
It again, you're right. Everyone owned that book. And back to kind of just the cult mentality for a minute here. There a common thing that cults would do is keep their people exhausted, but also
Yep, he would keep them exhausted. He would wake them up at 7 a.m. and have them do hard labor work around the Spawn Ranch. Because if they're tired all the time, they're not thinking.
Yes, and then another one that they do too is a lot of times, I mean, not that I'm against veganism or anything like that, but one of the big ways is cutting back on the amount of protein and making people live off of kind of vegetables and not get the amino acids, because it also is known to make the brain sluggish. Like, those are two main factors, is the hard labor and the cut back on the protein in order to keep them emaciated and keep their brain tired. Yep. Yeah.
And plus how they got their food was dumpster diving, and it was hard to get unspoiled meat. So that also played into it. Like, that kind of worked in his favor, I think, inadvertently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course,
we'll get to the dumpster diving because he wrote a song about it on there.
God damn it. It's, Joe.
But yeah, it's interesting in that, these people just bought into it, and yeah, it's fucked up, man. These cults. It's like, to me, he's the dark other side of the coin of what Ken Kesey was doing with the Merry Pranksters.
Yeah.
That was very positive, and I'm sure there's elements of sexism and all that in there, but it's nowhere near like that dark coin. Like, Kesey and the Pranksters, they drove around this bright, colorful bus. Manson bought a bus too. The girls painted it colorful, and he wanted it painted black. So that should have been
clue number one.
Clue number one.
Clue number one in the 60s.
Something a little off with this peace love guy. And two, he kept them in line by either publicly humiliating them or physical violence. Dennis Wilson ended up getting freaked out because Charlie was always waving a knife around, and he wasn't sure if he was ever actually going to use it or not. Probably did.
Yep.
It's again, there's so many, like, it's, and the murders didn't even just start with the Tate and LaBiancas. It goes back to a guy he knew from Haight-Ashbury time, Gary Hinman, and Bobby Bousselet was also a member of the family. Killed that guy. Manson cut off his ear. Like, you get this shit where people are like, well, he didn't do anything. Like, well, he
did. He kind of did. Dickie.
And like,
he kind of did.
Just because he wasn't there for the Tate murders, he knew what was going on. He told him to do it. He's culpable. That's how the law works. You can't just convince people to go and murder people and then think nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, or whip them into a frenzy, send them on their way, and then say, "I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with it." You're culpable.
Yeah, he tied up the LaBiancas too. So.
Yeah, and so there was no them getting escape. He tied them up. They were going to die.
Exactly. Yeah. So thankfully, none of them will ever. I think most of them are almost all dead now. Anyway, Charlie died in 2017, I think. Just spent most of his entire life in prison.
Jesus fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe. Joe, is
there anything else you want to go over? Because, there's other sorts of weird things. Like, he did show up at the Tate house when Sharon was there, but he got chased away.
Yeah. I mean, then there was the swastika, then there was the...
That's during the trial, yeah. The trial was basically... That's a that Helter Skelter. I get annoyed with Bulagosi because he kind of he helps kind of shape this mysticism inadvertently, but I think he did it also because I don't know why. But the trial part, I mean, one of the defense attorneys fucking was killed by the family. Because he pissed off Charlie. He said that he wanted his client tried separately from the rest, and then he went camping and never returned.
God damn it, Joe.
I mean, fuck, man.
It's dark. It's dark.
It's dark and it's surreal dark. And it's fucked up. And doing the research on this, Paul, was it.
Dude, he got married in prison. Do you remember that fucking?
Yeah.
He got
mad at her. He was like, she's only using me. Well, what the fuck?
What the fuck do you think she's marrying for?
You're a fucking troll.
God damn it, Charlie!
Look at you.
God, yeah. No, I mean, there's a fascination in there, and again, the book is so good, and there have been literal hundreds of documentaries made about it.
Hundreds of books. I've read a lot of them. And it's fascinating stuff. It's unsettling and it's fascinating. And I think that's part of the appeal is just how strange it is. And the impact it hit, 67 was the summer of love and 69 ended up being the summer of hate.
Yeah. Yeah. And
69, I think, is Altamont, where the Hells Angels killed a guy.
Altamont.
68 was rough and you have to understand there's race riots going on in the 60s. We like to think this era is tumultuous. The 60s were pretty fucking tumultuous. Riot, the Watts riot is fucking nuts.
Watts. Fucking, dude, even to this day.
They stopped rioting. Basically, the riots ended because there was nothing left to break.
Joe, I drove. I had to go through Watts one time for work, for a job I had, and the guy I was with was like, "Drive as fast as you fucking can." It still scared him. The Watts riots still scared him.
Well, Watts is a result of how cities use racism to divvy up the city. So all the poor black people were basically just put in this Watts area, and it was hard to get anybody minorities couldn't buy houses in rich white neighborhoods. We still see this today.
We still see it today.
It's fucked up. and Watts was a very much it boils over. You can't treat people like this.
No,
so 60s were fucked up. So on top of that, Manson has this, everything's going violent. You have the 68 convention in Chicago.
Oh.
People see on TV protesters being beaten, gassed by cops.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is all cannon fodder for Charlie to keep his people like, see, you're with me and we're safe.
Yep.
So
no,
do what I say.
It was a crazy time because I think, Joe, one of the big things, because people now, history, it's always controlled by the winners or whatever, right? And the idea that, that 60s were this, but it was the rise of a lot of things. It was the rise of the serial killer. It was rise of civil rights. It was the rise of really class warfare, when people really started to recognize class warfare. It was the rise, again, we had fucking Bundy and like people, and like there was such a bubbling underneath all of this.
Technology is advancing
Mm-hmm.
at a rapid rate.
And people, even then, that's when we started to see people losing their job from automation and things like that. And the economy is starting to fucking turn to what became very difficult in the 70s, of the rising of the fucking mortgage rates and housing costs. And it was a tumultuous the gas shortage. It was such a tumultuous time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just every era is tumultuous, but and I'm not downplaying what we've gone through, because some tumultuous times, but
no,
it's the 60s, 70s were just, again, it's a perfect storm.
Yeah, and you had Vietnam going on. You had just so fucking much, Joe.
And in the middle of this, you got this little con artist.
Little Connie Con.
with his gaggle of chuckleheads isolated out, and he's obsessed with getting a record deal.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck, he doesn't get it, and it's everybody else's fault. It's not his fault. And then, bam! He fucking, again. There's a glitch in people like him.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't born right. I'm sorry. There's just people who are born fucked up, and there's no helping. They're just fucking nuts. Hate to be that guy, and I'm sure people are like, you can't say that, but fuck.
You can 100% say that, because it's the truth. Again, when just in the and people go, you can't, but even in the odds of probability, you're talking mathematical physics, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Mathematically speaking, it's going to happen. It has to, statistically, yes.
Yeah. And, Manson's not a story of a guy who just fell through the cracks. He was just a fucked up guy. And there was nothing that was ever really going to change him.
No.
And he fell into like the weirdest timeline, fell in the weirdest area of the country where the weirdest shit was starting to pop up during a youthful revolution. Yeah, it was, again, perfect storms of shit happening, The 60s had a lot of good things happen, and it had a lot of fucked up, terrible things happen. Manson was probably, he's not the most fucked up, but he's definitely up in that list.
Yeah, Joe, and again, I think you're right. The way it was written, the way the book went through, and I think there could have been there was other cults. There was other things going. It was such a rise of that, because, and also the other thing with it too, is now there's a lot more willful ignorance in today's than there was then, because you didn't have mass comm in the way that you have it now. You didn't have information the way that you have it now. So it was very, 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 very easy for some of these people that were being in this tumultuous time of being, what you're seeing, what's happening, and, you didn't get all the information, and then, there's all these underbellies and all these horrible things going on. Now there's a lot more mental gymnastics to get to that point. But people still do it.
Yeah.
But
and if you look at what he was telling his people, like, yeah, other cults were like, But like coming into the 70s after Manson, a lot of the shit he was telling his people was like people were saying the same shit in this weird new age feel goodery stuff. People trying to deal with the tumultuous, like a lot of that, and you see that in some of these songs.
Mm-hmm.
There's no evil, people, like the world's messed up, but your love is all good and all that shit, like, and even, but yeah, cults were popping up before and after Manson, Jonestown, Scientology.
Gee, yeah,
I want to blurb Scientology so we don't get sued by
I'm gonna get on the couch and jump up and down and squee, Joe. I love you.
But yeah, I mean, this is, cults happen, but like I think at the 60s with people becoming more different way of thinking on top of easier access to drugs. Also,
drugs is a big part of it.
Drugs were a big part of it. Drugs be real. And people just feeling lost. I mean, that's just like easy prey. People are just in a crisis. They're easy prey for fucking charlatans. Look at Jonestown.
Yeah, Jonestown.
Yeah.
Fucking Jonestown, Joe. That is a fuck all. Oh my God, do we have to get into this fucking album?
Yeah, we got to get into Lie, which was, again, produced and put out by his good time buddy Phil Kaufman.
Oh, God. Let's. I mean, you and I know who Phil Kaufman is, but why don't you?
He grew on to be pretty. He worked with a lot of people, Paul.
Yeah, he
worked with people.
Graham Parsons,
Zappa. Your good buddy Zappa.
My good buddy Zappa.
Our good buddy Hank Williams III.
Yep.
Yeah,
God damn it. God damn it. Joe Cocker. Yeah. The Stones.
Yes,
Charlie Manson.
Charlie Manson. But again, he was running in these circles.
Yeah.
Man, like he knew a lot of these people, like whether they will admit it or not, they met Charles Manson. These 60s bands.
Damn it.
God damn fuck, it. He was close to it, and then he's a psycho. He was a psychopath, so he fucking lost his shit. I'm sure daily LSD trips didn't help with any of this, but it is what it is. So now we're talking about Lie, which came out in 1970 I believe it's after the trial. Yeah. Didn't do very well when it came out, Paul.
Gee, Joe. I wonder why it didn't do well.
Well, during the reception, retrospective reviews of the album have been largely positive, though critics have noted the difficulty of separating Manson's music from the subsequent chorus. Here's the thing: you're looking at these lyrics.
Oh God!
They don't, they don't predict that he's going to be a killer.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
A heavy aroma of how he was a cult leader. You know what I mean? Like his philosophies in these songs. Like, yeah, it's not. Here's the thing: this album's not as fucked up as people think it. Going in is going to think it is, but it's also kind of fucked up album, Paul. There's fucked up stuff, but again, there's a lot of rambling nonsense on this album too.
Joe,
like a few songs where I think like there's an actual song there.
Yes. There actually have several notes where I'm like, well, this is kind of a song.
Yeah, again, he wasn't talentless.
No, he, as much as I want to say he was, right? Because that'd make it
I think we all like to say that, but he had a talent.
He did, but luckily, you can hear the crazy.
Yeah, the crazy's in there. There's no medication for this kind of crazy, Paul. This is a guy who should have just stayed locked up. Like he begged to be.
I mean, I think nowadays you put out this album, even though there's not a lot to indicate it, I think people go...
There's a lot of red flags.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you say I had no idea Charles Manson, and you're like, here's lyrics from the new Neil Young album, Joe. And I looked at this and be like, there's a fucking glitch in Neil Young's brain because this isn't right.
Yeah.
Like, there's this fucking glitch, man. Like there's times where he's kind of funny. Like he's charismatic. There's a reason why he had over 30 followers at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you can hear the charisma on some songs. You can see why, it's just, he was a fucking monster.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's start. Let's start with,
yeah, he's a fucking monster.
You think so, Paul? Don't you think he just may have gotten a bad rap?
Sure, he got a bad rap. Yeah, let's give him that.
Here's the thing: I think there's still people out there who are still technically part of the family.
Theoretically speaking, there are. Because they could definitely they stood to that point where they could be alive right now. Absolutely, yes, and they could come for us after we tear apart this album.
He has a rabid fan base,
Goody.
Like Stephen Wright said, if they threaten to kill me, like I'll just say what Stephen Wright said in Natural Born Killers. Mallory Knox said if she ever saw you, she'd kill you. I don't believe anything women tell me.
We're getting canceled. Yeah, it's okay. So again, we got
this is an album of basically demos.
And it has that demo feel. There's this a really annoying pop throughout and hiss throughout this album.
Can't believe they haven't remastered this, Paul.
Boy, goddamn, Joe.
How come somebody's not gone into Pro Tools and cleaned this fucker up?
The fuck?
So we can hear the crisp sound of him banging on his guitar like a drum.
We'll get there. I have notes.
Like some guitars do that, and sometimes there's normally the light tap.
Oh, yeah, I do it.
Like here he's using it like a fucking drum.
Yep, I do it sometimes. You just do the boom, boom, boom. Yeah. The lyrics. If it's a Manson, that we gotta dig into the lyrics here. Verse 2. What a mad!
Look at your game, girl.
Yep. Look at your game, girl.
We didn't. You're getting ahead of me, Paul.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Joe. We're getting into the cupcake territory.
Gilmer up a Manson with you. So the overview, the lyrics and all that. It's also stylistically it changes, which maybe is part of. I'm not gonna say it was like he's pooling all his influence. I think he's just fucking nuts, Paul.
Yeah.
I think Charles Manson may have had a mental problem.
I think this guy was not sane, Joe.
I think it was a few sandwiches short of a picnic, Paul. Drift.
Yeah,
catch my drift, Paul.
I catch it. I'm smelling what the Rock's laying down here, and it definitely is not a full carton of eggs. Yeah.
All right, so look at your game, girl. A song that famously was covered by Guns N' Roses on the Spaghetti.
Fucking pricks.
And like you brought this up too, which bands covered his music just for the shock value.
It's all it was. It wasn't
except for one band, and that was the Beach Boys.
That's because they wanted $871,000 back.
How much do you think Dennis Scott and Royals never fucked up? I don't know if he made back that $100,000.
I'm sure he only got something like I would guess 5 figures at most.
Yeah, maybe 20 grand.
Yeah, maybe 20, 25 grand, which is still a good amount in that time.
It's a B-side to a single.
It's a B.
Yeah, it was. I shared that video. There's a video of it.
There's a video
Dennis singing the song.
God damn it!
Speaking of, Dennis Wilson does have a solo album that we'll get to at some point.
Fuck you.
Only Beach Boys item that I actually enjoy. So we'll be able to reminisce about Charlie and Dennis again.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, my life is complete, Joe.
So I'm starting to, look at your game, girl. I'm starting to see it. I don't know if you noticed this thread in the lyrics, Paul, but they seem kind of paranoid.
What was that, Joe?
They seem a little paranoid. I think Charlie might have been a little paranoid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he also seems like he's always the victim of something.
What a mad delusion, living in that confusion, frustration, and doubt. Can you ever live without the game? That sad, sad game, mad game. Just to say love's not enough. Just to be true, you could tell those lies, baby, but you're only fooling you.
Yeah, and so...
Can you feel those feelings real? Look at your game, girl. Oh, look at your game, girl. His voice on this isn't bad. I actually will admit that.
And I was actually surprised. So, like, the first time I heard this was probably back in 2000. It was not what I was expecting because I had no idea what a Charles Manson. This is like after Napster and all that shit. So,
right.
Like, you could get this without, because record stores weren't going to sell it.
And you don't want to give money.
You don't want to give them money. I think the money royal money goes to, like, victims, charities, and stuff like that. So if you listen to it, like, at least something came out, like maybe some streaming nickel we got for them. But yeah, so I heard it, and it was not what there's only one song on here that was kind of like what I was expecting. But this is like 50s crooner stuff. 50s pop, like Frankie Valli or fucking Perry Como shit,
Mm-hmm.
So I was not expecting that. So I think this 50s crooner stuff with fucking red flag lyrics, more red flag than those songs. And those songs had a lot of red flags. Because it's always about like a 30-year-old man trying to sleep with a 15-year-old girl.
God damn it.
Family Guy pointed it out. It's in Joe Swanson's jukebox.
God damn it. Oh, we are fucked. Go on.
Yeah, but this is one of the songs I said actually sounds like a song.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now we go to Ego.
Yes. Oh.
Which,
Joe.
minus the sitar, which the
what? The fuck? I know. I was doing the same thing. I was like, what the hell's happening here?
Here's the thing, this is just a whirlwind of different times they're recording. I don't think there's a list of who's playing what.
I don't think so.
With Ego, it could have. I don't know if this is from leaked the Wilson stuff, because like at least they would. I know Brad Wilson probably would have had somebody who knew how to play a fucking sitar. Like, but there's nobody. I don't think anybody's gonna up to when they played on the Charles Manson album.
God damn it.
Which is a little odd if you think about it.
Joe, I have 2 words written on the song: fever dream.
Rambling nonsense.
Yeah, I just like it's a fever dream song. You're happy,
and not like a fun William S. Burroughs fever dream type of writing. It's like very weird, paranoid. Again, like these songs seem like his pitch to the girls when he's trying to recruit them. He'll make you lie. He'll make you cheat just so you won't beat. He'll make you get out of sight, get you afraid. You're going to act like a clown. You get mad when somebody puts you down. Like, it seems like that weird nonsense he would be trying to sell to get women into his cult.
100%.
And by the way, he didn't want that many women in his cult. It's just he could not convince guys to join.
Gee, I wonder why.
Oh, considering one of the initiations was, everybody fucks each other, so they'd have to like screw a guy, which if you're not gay, I'd imagine
it's a hardliner.
Yeah, it's just. But he's like, but the whole point of that was control. He wanted to control people. It wasn't about opening your mind to new sensations. It was like, if he can make you do stuff like that, he can make you do other things.
Yep, that's exactly what that was. That was about.
It's like I hope I didn't come off as homophobic, but that was the reason why he did that.
No. And you got to also remember too. I don't know. No, you're not being homophobic. You got to remember too that in the '60s, it was incredibly taboo. Incredibly. Again, we're still fighting for the rights of African American Black people, let alone the rights of homosexuals was not anywhere near the fucking surface yet.
I mean, it was just a few years ago. Same-sex couples were allowed to marry, man. Like,
exactly.
It seems so fucking. I'm not gonna get on a soapbox, but it's fucked up that it takes us this long to fucking get shit.
Mm-hmm.
Equal rights, which people should. We always say we have, but we really don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how he'd break people, control them. Like, it's fucking strange, man.
Well, I mean, again, it was different times.
Yeah,
and
different times, views on it. But then again, so the book I've read, Charlie's initiation into sex was in, reformatory schools, like boys' prisons.
Mm-hmm.
So his introduction to sex was either rape, or hey, people, I guess in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they didn't care. These schools and these prisons did not give a shit.
Did not give a flying fuck.
So that's how he was introduced to sex, and a lot of it. Sometimes it was consensual. A lot of times it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you look at it, he saw sex as a tool and not as an act of love.
Right. It was essentially a form of control.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So,
goody.
Now we're gonna get to the song that I actually like. This is what I imagined a Charles Manson song would be like.
Oh my God,
Mechanical Man.
Joe.
Here's the thing about Mechanical Man, Paul. And you're gonna disagree. There's interesting things going on here, and I think this is like a sketch of like what you'd imagine. What I think Charlie was like a really produced song, really super produced, like a Zappa-esque or Beatles Tomorrow Never Knows type of song. That's the vibe I'm getting from it. He even cribs like some melodies from Tomorrow Never Knows too. This.
Yeah, I will say I had this. The notes I had written down where if I didn't know any better, I would say a serial killer wrote this.
Yeah, but it's interesting, almost because of that. You know what I mean? Like, God, I'm gonna get fucking canceled for saying this shit, but it's fascinating to look into the mind of a fucking nut like Charles Manson. It's just like you don't want to go too deep into it because those are just poisoned waters, Paul.
Well, and again, I'm a mechanical man. I'm a mechanical man. I do the best I can because I have my family. I'm a mechanical boy. I'm my mother's toy. I play in the backyard sometimes. I'm a mechanical man. I'm an illusion, postulated, mocked up through confusion. Now, we talk about lyrics a lot of times, and lyrics are insight into a lot of times. And sometimes we talk about how there's darkness and there's other things into it. But there is a manic craziness to this that is definitely, even if it wasn't, if this was coming off a porch radio, you just beat up all the time, I would say there is a scary thing happening right now. Yeah.
But there's also elements where I see what he's getting at.
Yes.
If you look at it, it's very like conformist. He's
Joe. That's
like,
part of the beauty of what he was doing.
I'm a mother's toy. Like, I see what he's getting at.
Yeah,
and it makes me nervous that I see that.
And I don't think you should be nervous because you see that. Because the thing is that this is what he was. This is what got him his cult. Right? Was the ability to fucking do this shit.
Yeah.
And that's the fascinating part of it was the fact that you can see this and be that's the brilliance of what he was doing. So
and you can see this, it's a square peg in a round hole.
Yes.
He's the mechanical. He plays in the backyard sometimes, but he says it's an illusion. This is not who he is. Who he was is a lot fucking darker than I think anybody's suspecting when they're recording this song.
Then you get to the end of it, and this is where I actually think it's far more easier to see the crazy. Living on your illusion that won't wear out. I had a little monkey, sent him to the country. I fed him gingerbread. Along came a choo-choo, knocked my monkey cuckoo. Now my monkey's dead. You're so mechanical. You go lay down. I wonder how a brown cow would say. And then you go, what?
And then here's the thing. The catchiest part of the song is about the dead monkey. Yes. And that part of the song was used by Marilyn Manson.
Mm-hmm.
Manson stole that. You know, Manson pulled a Dennis Wilson on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, like, again, like, you can hear, like, he had an ability to have these melodies and sing them. You know, it's like, yeah, as much as I wish to say, I could say he had no talent, he very much had a talent of coming up spontaneous with things off the top of his head, and it was a little catchy. And that's fucked. I mean, I guess that's one positive attribute about him.
I mean,
he's a piece of shit, but he was able to.
Even a broke.
He wasn't completely incompetent at music.
No, well, we'll get to the next song.
He was incompetent, but he wasn't completely incompetent.
Joe, the next song. People say I'm no good.
Yeah, Joe. This is, again, like, he's the victim.
Joe.
The whole world's against him, Paul.
The out-of-tune guitar. The out-of-tune guitar.
He was in the studio. He got one of the engineer who was like Brian Wilson's engineer told him like he should tune his guitar, and he got all mad at him.
Joe.
I don't know the songs from those sessions, but it would probably make sense.
Joe, the out-of-tune guitar is one of the most painful things I've sat through as a musician. This was almost impossible. I literally have written in my notes, and we sat through Porch Radio. I wrote down, the out-of-tune guitar is the what the fuck, who okayed this? I hate this so much right now. Because there is a semblance of a song in there.
Yeah.
But when the guitar is obviously the chords, I know what chords he's trying to make, and it's hurting me. And I'm going, what the fuck is happening right now? Yeah.
My notes on this is he's a complainer, a bitchy little complainer. Because he's just complaining about things. But we do get a little insight, and I think this is probably the most honest I think you'll ever get out of a Charles Manson. And this line is, everybody says you're no good because you don't like they think you should, you don't like they think they should. Do you expect them, and do you expect them to act like them? Look at them, man. Look at the fixer. Like,
yeah,
I think this is very much like the persona's kind of cracking, and he's actually accidentally expressing true feelings, and I don't think I'm comfortable with that.
No, this is very much his trapped in a closet moment.
Yeah.
Yep, this is when you go, okay, now we know what we're working with here. Fuckery.
Oh,
Joe, like, this was painful. Next song, track
Moments
number.
where you're happy.
Moments where you're happy. I wrote down, this sounds like it was recorded in the 50s at Sun Records.
Yeah, it's a very 50s influence.
It's very 50s influence.
And that's a weird thing. Like, so he obviously has like these influences, and he can ape them more or less all right. You know, it's not like I've heard worse. You know, I've heard a lot better, but I've heard a lot worse than Charles Manson's music. G.G. Allen. Sorry, Caleb.
we're gonna get to G.G. Allen. We're gonna get to G.G. Allen
at some point. Yeah.
At some point. Mm-hmm.
But you know, there's just it's you know, it's not terrible. It's not great, but it actually is a song. Unlike People Say I'm No Good is not really much of a song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Joe.
Yes, Paul.
And then we get to
Arkansas.
And
Which actually has a song to it.
It does, but I said, oh, there is a struggle. What is happening? I can't even identify half the instruments on this goddamn song.
It starts with like babbling
from the fucking
family.
cult.
The cult is yelling,
and it's unnerving. It's super unnerving. I'm not gonna lie. It's super uncomfortable. Yeah.
Paul, this whole album's uncomfortable. It's Charles Manson, man. Please keep up. But this is actually like a song, and it's country western, which is another turn. Mm-hmm. But it's like a story song, and it's it's not it's fine. It doesn't have the psychotic stuff besides the family arguing at the beginning.
Well, no, Joe, it's psychotic. It's a bunch of people in the studio banging random shit, Joe. It's bad shit.
Nothing wrong with that, Paul. We listen to Funhouse.
No. This isn't even Funhouse.
Charlie was just ahead of the curve on that, Paul.
Oh, fuck. As a musician, from a musician point of view, this song was so, because again, I'm listening to things, I'm going, okay, but they're banging and playing and doing, and like, I'm going, what the fuck? What is all in that fucking room right now? Because I can't identify fucking half of it.
Yeah.
And it's making these weird brown notes, and it's making me want to shit. I don't know what's happening.
Exactly, Paul. That's why it's a good song.
God damn it.
But I did, it actually has a melody and actually like something happening in the lyrics besides Charlie being a paranoid fucking weirdo. Like.
Yeah. Oh. Joe, this sucks. Okay, go on.
Yeah, that's what I think, Paul.
Exactly.
All right. But yeah, at least there's like a song part to it. Now we get to I'll Never Say Never to Always. That's a word jumble.
So all I have in my notes is, oh goody, cult singing.
It actually sounds like a song though, Paul. He did something different. He's not singing on it. At least he changed it up a bit.
It's be consistent. Sorry. You hate it when Roger Waters was bringing in the other singers, and you're fine when it's Charlie. Be consistent.
Paul, you're the last person to tell people to be consistent with these reviews. So I would advise you to tread carefully. It's not on every goddamn song. It's not relying because Charlie can't sing. It's because this is a different thing going on, Paul. And the lyrics are kind of fucked up, but it's weird because it's in this weird sing song. It sounds like it's from a fucking Mary Poppins movie.
Dude, like I said, it sounds like a fucking. Like I said, it just literally my notes are, oh goody, the cult is singing. It's really because that's what it is.
Yeah, I've heard worse. Sorry, Porridge Radio. I'm gonna have to say Charles Manson's better.
Oh my God, dick. That is a dick move. Go on.
Man, that's their problem, not mine.
No, I'm not letting you do that. Go on. Jesus.
I just did it, Paul.
Fuck you. Joe, garbage dump.
So this is, so the family, to feed themselves, would dumpster dive. And Charlie learned this from a group called the Diggers, Paul. The Diggers in Haight-Ashbury. There's a huge influx of kids going to San Francisco around this time, around the summer of love. And what the Diggers were doing is they were trying to feed them. Like, I mean, so many people are showing up in this city and they're starving, and there was all sorts of, like, they helped with medical assistance. And Charlie hung around with them. And that's where he got the idea, because the diggers would just go to grocery stores and go into the dumpsters because they would throw out food, but the food wasn't completely, it wasn't bad. It was just past the expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the diggers would feed all these these people who were just going to San Francisco trying to find something, you know. Like, we've all been in our 20s. We all kind of relate to that. Manson saw that and just taught his followers to do it to feed his cult. And then he wrote a song about it called Garbage Dump, sung to the tune of Home on the Range, Paul.
Damn it, Joe. My only note says in all caps, "What is happening? I'm scared."
You should be.
Now, I will say, I am very familiar with dumpster diving. There was a time where I was living out of my car, and I hung out with a lot of punks. And actually, if you remember, maybe you don't remember, maybe you weren't, you might have been gone by this point, but there was a giant office that dumped all their computers. So a bunch of us found out that this was going to happen. This company was going out of business, and we went and dumpster dived all these fucking computers and monitors and shit. And then these people would refurbish them and sell them to make money. These refurbished office computers. So yeah, I mean, I don't harp on the fact that you're dumpster diving. People dumpster dive, but motherfuck, when Charlie Manson's singing about it, sure is fucking creepy.
Yeah, it's basic, you know. He could feed the world with this garbage dump. So there's a weird thing about Charlie Manson, Paul. One weird thing.
What is that? Thing. Gee, what is that one weird thing, Joe? I'm curious.
He was always manipulating and whatever, and he would preach shit he didn't believe in. But for some reason, there was one cause that he just, for some reason, he personally gravitated to, and that was environmentalism.
Fair.
I don't know why. And I don't want to get into the mindset of understanding why Charles Manson was an environmentalist. But this was pretty much an environmentalist type of song. It's hunger. It's showing that there's so much waste. People are just throwing shit out. And Charlie's there, like, his family are living off the fucking scraps. But then there's weird talk in this song, Paul. So
it's weird, Joe. It's weird. Like I said,
garbage pickers of America, Paul. The garbage pickers of America.
Garbage pickers of America. Whoa.
Oh, but it smells, Paul. It smells, Paul.
It smells, Joe. It smells. See? God damn it, Joe.
But there's actually I hate to say it, but there's a message here.
Oh, I will there is one thing we can honestly give Charlie. He wasn't short of shit to say, was he? He definitely had his opinions.
And that's the thing, though. No, you never really, again, because he was fucking nuts. You never knew what he believed or what he didn't. But the environmentalism thing was one of the few consistent things he was pretty open about. So I don't know.
I mean, yeah. Does that outweigh the cult murders?
No, not. I'm just saying that that's just a weird little tidbit I've picked up over the years.
Inquiring minds want to know, Joe.
Oh, hey. He had one cause that he gravitated towards too. I don't know. It doesn't undo the damage he did. I'm just saying it's a little tidbit.
I mean, did he prevent?
I'm not going to I'm not going to talk about it for 3 hours like you with fucking WWE. Jumping on me for a tidbit. Jesus Christ, Paul.
So in the 1980s, Cyndi Lauper met fucking Lou Albano.
Oh God. All right. Yeah, I'm just saying. He had environmental views. It's just weird because he had no real solid views on anything.
Well, I think he had some solid views on some things, Joe.
It depends. It honestly depends. He was racist, but
But was he really racist?
Well, he was racist. Don't get me wrong, but like,
Well, then he had a solid opinion on something.
I guess I don't know.
Hey, Joe, how about we just don't do anything illegal?
This was a weird one, huh?
Isn't it?
It's like a bluesy song that is all about how he hates being hassled by cops.
Well, and I even said, this is beyond avant-garde. I said,
Move over, Yoko.
yeah, move over, Yoko. There's a new sheriff in town.
How come I get a feeling this would be an album championed by Frank Zappa?
No.
Oh, he championed the Shags, and that's one of the worst fucking albums I've ever heard.
But at the same time,
Today,
Junior. But at the same time, I will say though there was a musical. I mean, it wasn't great.
He had run-ins with Zappa too, Paul.
I understand that, and I believe Zappa was not a fan.
I don't know anything.
I'm pretty fucking sure Zappa was not a fan.
I'm sure he wasn't. I don't know. Till Young was. I mean, anything can happen.
I mean, that's what we just need. We need them working together. But the today, Junior. But the point is on that is that no, I think Zappa would have looked at it like, again, the guitars not being tuned, things like that. That would have been a pet peeve to Zappa. That would
really he championed the Shags. They sang out of tune, Paul.
But it was still a thing.
That's not just saying it's a thing doesn't make it a thing, Paul. The Shags fucking sucked.
Fine, Joe.
Be consistent, Paul.
Be consistent with your answers, sir.
Yeah, it's weird. Whatever. Now we get to Sick City, and this is my note, Paul, because I started looking at these song titles. My note was, he had interesting song titles. I'll give him that. Unfortunately, these songs are boring.
Yeah.
I mean, the song titles, at least those are like, they look interesting. Unfortunately, they're not as interesting as
they don't do anything. No. I mean, and this one, what is Slick City?
The city's sick, Ball.
Yeah, and I was just like, there are times where the voice isn't bad, but again, someone needs to tune his shit. That's the thing. Like,
good luck with that, Paul. He can't be shown his needed correction in front of anybody.
Joe, it was. I mean,
I think he probably would have somebody killed for something.
Not Charlie. He was so stable.
God, yeah, the auto-tune guitar, man, and then just beating it like a fucking drum.
I know, dude, and he is, and he's just smacking. And if you know anything, it's fucking knocking to the strings, and you get more out of tune for the next fucking song, and you're going, fucking stop it, you son of a whore. But again, there is because again, I'm struggling because I don't want to give the guy credit, but again, we're looking at this from an objective point of view as much as we can. As much as we fucking can. Because boy, it's hard to be objective on this one. I don't want it to be good. But the thing is, it's
not that good. It's just there's interesting things going on.
There's interesting things going on. Like okay, had the Guns N' Roses covered maybe this song, I could actually see that. I could see someone sitting back and going, yeah, it's Charlie Manson. Yeah, the guitar's out of tune. Which again it's weird because if the guitar was in tune, I actually think this song could have been something. Yeah. Because it's a good song and his voice was all right with it. But again, thank God he wouldn't let anybody tune his shit, so nobody wanted to fucking hear it. Thank you, Charlie.
Not letting somebody tune his guitar really changed history.
Yeah.
That's a butterfly effect right there.
Okay, well, again, maybe someone did need to just step in and do it. Maybe I need to go back in time and tune his guitar so he doesn't fucking kill people. I'll take that fucking
back in time. You just shoot his mom.
God. I mean, but
like frame him for some crime so he doesn't get released.
Yeah, I frame him for something. maybe I'll kill the Tates and frame him for that. But the point.
Whoa! Jesus, Paul.
Cut that out. Sorry.
Just beep it out. Can't believe you said that. What the fuck is wrong with you, Paul?
The joke was there. It was there. Man,
that's like the human giant joke where Paul Scheer goes back to September 10th, 2001 to buy Crystal Pepsi.
Joe, we were off the rails anyways. But this is this is something where I could excuse someone saying there's a thing here. Mm-hmm. The lyrics aren't that great, but the style, the guitar, even though it's out, the fact that it's out of tune and I can hear a song in it and I go, yeah, okay, you actually were on to something here. Like it or not, this is the one that I give credence on the album.
Yeah, again, he's so unfocused.
Yeah.
Probably too busy running a cult.
That'd be too, all the families there hanging out, pissing, and oh wait, that was R. Kelly. Sorry, go on.
Jesus Christ almighty. All right, now we get to Cease to Exist. This is one of the professionally produced demos. This was from '67. This song and Eyes of a Dreamer, I believe, were from when he went to the Universal Records or whatever. So that's why this one has sounds a little better quality. This is also the song that the Beach Boys covered. Beach Boys, I think, Dennis was able to make the melodies work a little better, and he changed the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why when you're pretty pretty girl, cease to exist, just come and say you love me, give up your world. Joe. This is his pitch. This is his pitch to his cult members.
Joe,
this is what he's asking them to do. It's fucking jarring.
So I have written down here, this sounds like Bob Dylan on acid.
Yeah,
that's literally
a voice than Bob Dylan.
Yeah, it is. I'm not going to deny that, but there's the fact that it does sound different than the other ones because again, as you said, the production on it is a different quality, but at the same time, bro, dude, this is a mess. This is an absolute I was really struggling to get through this song because I was just like, make it fucking end, make it fucking end, make it fucking end. This is like Dylan, if Dylan was all fucked up and was like, come on, let's record.
Yeah.
Which he did all the time and he could make it through just fine. But this was like when he was on the wrong bender. Yeah. Yeah. This is Bob Dylan on the bad end of a bender writing a song.
Yeah. But it's better produced. And again, the Beach Boys version, actually, it's not their version is not that bad. I actually think it works. Again, it's more focused and more polished, and so it kind of shows what you could do with what he's doing here. He had no focus. He was just all about starting this cult and trying to create a race war.
He had focus. It just wasn't.
Other priorities.
Yeah. He was working on a lot of fires in the oven. Yeah. A lot of fires going.
a lot of irons in the fire.
A lot of irons in the fire, there, Joe.
But yeah, this is one of those songs. I guess we're disagree, but it works as a song for me as opposed to a lot of these other ones. So maybe because it's a little more polished than the other songs, but next, Big Iron Door. Not a lot of subtext here, Paul. It's about basically his experience with his whole life being in prison.
Yeah, and again, I have it written down again with the out of tune guitar shit. I just wish Charles Manson would kill me already.
You would have made that happen, Paul. He wasn't shy about that.
No, sir, he was not.
But there's no insight into what it's. He's not giving insight of what it's like to be in prison. He's just kind of he's just detailing what he saw and shit. So it's very, it's weird. It's almost like Patrick Bateman in the book American Psycho, just explaining what he's seeing in detail with no real context or subtext to it. So it's just really it's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. It's and again, I'm not gonna say it's bad. It's not great. It's again unfocused. But once again, I could sit here and if the thing is it's the instrumentation that really kills. Like, no longer is music anymore. It's just some weird guy paid for studio time to fucking indulge his fucking weird shit. And this is what you get. Like, this is my
Paul,
average.
He never paid for studio time. It was given to him.
Okay, fair enough. But the point is exactly that.
Charlie's a cheap son of a bitch, Paul. He's not going to spend money again. He can't even afford food. He has to eat out of dumpsters.
Guys, follow your dreams, because if a poor son of a bitch like Charlie can handle
now we get into, we're getting the tail end, and there's another left curveball here, Paul, with I Once Knew a Man, which is like flamenco style.
Yeah, and
it's
boy,
like crooner stuff. It doesn't sound bad. Like, I like what the guitar style is doing here. It's just again, it's just not focused, so it becomes a
literal. My notes are cult suck. Yep, my notes are cult suck. Now, what scares me about this song is what the title could imply, and I was really uncomfortable with that. And I was like, man, knowing like what we know about Charles Manson, I was really uncomfortable with the song. You there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean the lyric I once knew a man so love he was to be. I once knew a man whose heart open you could see. Sadder than the dream that he should pass us by, sadder than the scheme in his name is in the name is written in the sky. Joe, I'm not I still am physically uncomfortable even reading those lyrics, knowing what we know what this cult did. And I truly wonder if this is not a confession song.
Could be.
Yeah. I mean,
probably. I don't think he had much of a filter with these songs, because he's pretty, like, going back. What song? He's, people say I'm no good. Like, there's stuff in here where he's actually, the facade goes down a bit. So very much probably is a confession song. He probably didn't even realize it.
Exactly. I think subconscious was coming out. So yeah, this really was one of the first songs. The whole thing made me uncomfortable. But when I saw the title of this song and heard some of the lyrics, I just my literal blood went cold. I was just physically uncomfortable. I was like, oh, this is a realm of dark I'm not sure if I was prepared for. And we've done a lot of fucked up shit on this show.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Porch Radio.
Yeah, they're really taking a beating on the Charles Manson review.
Those guys are going to find us and sue us.
And then the album ends with Eyes of a Dreamer. Another kind of crooner song.
I put down this one is another, it's kind of a song. That's literally what my notes were. It's kind of a song. It's a crooner thing. It's
just some jarring lyrics.
Yeah.
All the songs have been sung. All the saints have been hung. The whores and cries have been wailed. All the people have been jailed in the eyes of the dreamer.
Yeah.
Apple. Yeah.
Joe, Joe. It's 14 tracks, only 30 some odd minutes.
Yeah, it's like a Weezer album.
Weezer's gonna sue us for this.
I'm sorry, Charles Manson made a better album than Weezer. All right,
Joe. We got to be careful. Like the only people that reviewed this album, when they reissue, it's gonna have. It's like a Weezer album. They rate this album.
It's better than Weezer. Jill Fleming.
It kicks the radio porridge in the dick.
Paul Muad'Dib. Oh.
We gotta be real careful while we tread on this one, sir. We live in the darkest timeline that will use our words against us. Joe was, God damn, I don't even want to ask.
Yeah, right there, Paul.
No, because I gotta ask the question, Joe. What was the aftermath?
So there was, I believe, like 2,000 copies were printed, and I think he only sold like 300. Again, it's more of a curio that people would just buy, but I think most people would be pretty uncomfortable having it in their collection. So I don't. But I mean, there's a deluxe version of a CD version of it with, like, 13 extra tracks. So
In the darkest fucking timeline. I mean, I'm not opposed to, you know me. I'm very anti-censorship, things like that. I do think something like this is, whatever. But to put a fucking deluxe album, fuck you, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, there's an audience for it, Paul.
Boy,
that's just the thing, is there's an audience for it. I mean, it's just, I have nothing against it. I think it's interesting if you kind of know his story. There's like weird little insights that pop up in the lyrics.
Oh, absolutely.
Which are just like, I mean, for me, again, like his story, like, it's just kind of fascinating. Like this part of a monster's life, and like he was so like, it was like the most important thing to him. And there's a little, there's some talent here, but but then the lyrics have like these weird, like almost Easter eggs, like into what we know now. It's holy shit, Paul. It's just fucked up.
It's really, Joe, you and I have gone down 4 seasons of this show. It's really gone down some fucked up territories. This one is, no, again, I mean, we've talked about Phil Spector, we've talked about some other things, but to sit here and know what was going to come after this album, and like,
these songs are recorded, like the terror and the horror and just the fucking pointless loss of life because this guy's just a fucking nut. I mean, that's just at the end of it. And he had people willing to kill for him, and they're just as guilty of that shit. Like, they don't get off because, they weren't completely brainwashed. I don't think all of them were completely brainwashed. I think maybe a few of them were. But yeah, it's fucking, it's rough.
It's rough.
It's a rough story. Like, there's no winners in the story of Charles Manson.
No. And they're never.
No, really, there's no positive thing even associated with him.
No.
I mean, he was just a fucking monster. Like I said, he was born with a glitch in his brain, and unfortunately, it led to fucking death, destruction, mayhem, a lot of hurt people.
Yeah. And again,
it wasn't really bizarre. Well, he had more than this album, but
yeah, he did.
This is just like a weird kind of footnote to that story, but it's interesting in that listening to it, knowing what we know, and then there's just a fascination there, Paul. Like, we live in a culture that's just kind of fascinated with true crime, and
yep.
I don't behoove it because I think we're all interested in the psyche and what would drive people to do shit like this. I think that's the appeal. I don't, I don't condone anything he did, but I'm just fascinated like how this happens. It's endlessly. It's like same when I read up on Ted Bundy when I read
Oh yeah,
The Stranger Beside Me. Like, how does this shit happen? You know, it's fascinating. You know, monsters among us. You know,
and the thing is too is that someone we know or you know, like someone of this nature, right? Fucking was in a studio making music, hanging out with these people, right? And then this happens, and then you know the aftermath. And I mean, again, this came out after the trial, which sensationalism is what it is. But it's still just like one of those things where, yeah, I mean, I get the psyche of it. But some things I worry. I mean, just like anything, I was talking, you know, having some earlier philosophical discussions, say, about AI and technology and things like that. Sometimes it's not the question of should it or should it not be allowed or whatever. The question really is, it's here. How do we handle the fact that it's here?
Yeah.
And I think this album falls into it. It's not a matter of should it or should it not. The matter is, how do we handle something knowing that Charlie Manson has a fucking musical albums out there? Yeah. So, yeah.
It's out there. Like, yeah, like people want to listen to them, you enjoy them. Like, that's your thing. Like, I'm not going to behoof people because they like this album, because here's the thing. Like, there's artists I don't like, and I like artists other people don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And with you know, there's that stigma with Manson, obviously.
Yes.
Which, so like when if somebody's like, "Oh, I love this album," I would have to take a pause. I'd have to pause.
Yeah, 100%.
I'd have to take a minute to like take that in.
Yep.
But
100%.
I get it, because we don't get to choose what we like. You know, we either like it or we don't.
Well, and the other thing with it too, Joe, is, again, I have to look at it from the point of view of, again, I was having philosophical discussions about should or should not on certain things be allowed around the technology space and in the creative space and things like that. And my argument on a lot of things is, I look at the war on drugs as the prime example. Once you take something away that people know is out there and is there, you create a market for it. Mm-hmm. And so to sit there and say, no, you can't listen to these albums, it glorifies it even more.
Yeah, it creates a mystique around it.
You nailed it, Joe. And then there's going to be more people trying to get a hold of it and mysticizing and putting on this pedestal it doesn't deserve, because this has to be so bad, it's not allowed. And it's a gross, sick fascination thing. It's just how things work. So, yeah, I'm not opposed to the fact that this is out there. I just have my own opinions about the fact that it's out there.
Here's the thing. I don't care. It's out there. It's out there. It's pee in the pool.
Yep. It's pee in the pool.
And again, you know, it's what it is. The album didn't kill people. Charlie did. You know,
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. Like, there's people who collect artwork from John Wayne Gacy and shit.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, there's just like, and again, it's fascinating. Like, that shit's fascinating, and there's people who just get really into it, and then I'm not going to behoove them, because it is. Like, I even sit on this during this review. I've read multiple books on Charles Manson because I'm fascinated by the story.
I've always been fascinated with the whole psychology, especially in that big.
Yeah, the psychology, like what drove, like, and like Manson, like, once you kind of dig in, you see how he was doing it. He himself is like a character. I'm more fascinated in how, like, the semi-normal people who gravitate into his family and how they, you know, like, how do you fall for something like that? You know, that to me is also fascinating. Like, how do people who are, because you look at the people who are in the family, like, a lot of them were like from middle class families. You know, some of them were educated, college. I mean, it's fascinating that people fall into this shit, man.
Well, And the other thing with it is, I think a lot of it comes down to is the sense of belonging. You have this void, and some people, they just don't have. I mean, they said that, Charles Manson, for as crazy as he was, he did have an above average IQ. And so he was able to use that charisma and draw people in. And I think he was able to see how he could fill that void. And then as you bring in other members of the family, now you got other people who are like, oh no, you got this sense of belonging, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And it becomes the gang mentality of, no, we can beat you up, but no one else can beat you up. You're safe with us, but yeah, we'll treat you like shit, but we're not going to allow anyone else to treat you like shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. There was just this, and again, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't social circles for all the shit show that social media has created. You're seeing what would have happened already, which was these people were falling into their factions, falling into their tribes.
Mhm.
It's just what you do. So, now, rather than running with fucking, if the internet had been out there, I don't think Charles Manson, even though he would have had more appeal to it, I don't think he would have gotten nearly the followers that he did, because it would have been harder for him to convince them to follow.
Yeah. And again, it was the perfect storm. It was very much of the time too,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he was around in this day and age. I don't think he'd have a cult. I think he would just be a pimp.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Low-level drug dealer pimp. I mean, that's what he was before he went to prison. So
his pimp band would have been medium strong.
Well, considering he had 30 followers, I would say medium to above average pimpness.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, like, how many pimps do you know that had 30 people?
Yeah, that's
30
valid.
hoes.
That's valid. I mean, that's a lot of hoes to keep.
And he has a lot of bottom bitches, Paul. But yeah, again, it's fascinating to me, and I just and again, I chose this. It's out there, it's a thing, and it's also he was very much in circles with bands that are very popular. Like, he was running around with famous people.
Mm-hmm.
This is fucked up.
It's very fucked up. So,
and to the day Dennis Wilson died, he was he was still afraid of these people in this family.
Yeah, and again, there's people who it's. Joe, would you? I guess we got to get down to it. Would you recommend this album?
No, Paul, I would not recommend this album.
It's interesting, again, for me, because I'm interested in weird shit like this. I don't condone what he did or anything, but I think there's stuff here that if you're reading books about Manson, you listen to this album, you're going to see a lot of the stuff how he built shit. And to me, that's fascinating. So, and, it's not necessarily a good album, but I think it has its place for me. So I would recommend it, but not because the music's good. This is not a musically great album. I'm interested in this shit. So and if you're interested in like true crime and serial killer shit, you give it a shot, because you're gonna probably pick up on shit that is just like, oh fuck, that's from whatever in his life, and that's fucked up that he's talking about it here and shit. So
No, Paul, I would not recommend this album.
Paul Muad'Dib. Paul. Paul. Would you recommend Live by Charles Manson?
I can't do it. For me as a musician, there was so much pissing me off that it wasn't, again, the out-of-tune guitar.
The beating of the music is bad on this.
Yeah.
It's not musically, it's not that interesting for me. It's from the psychological shit.
Yeah.
It's just like, for me, it's just like, that's fascinating to me. So like the music to me, it's whatever. Yeah. It's the weird shit he's saying that I'm just like, holy fuck, what's your glitch, buddy?
Yeah, that's the problem with it. Like, from a musical standpoint, it's not an album. It's a curiosity. And so, yeah, I really can't validate it in terms of making it a thing. So yeah, I don't think there's enough music. Again, if you're curious about Charles Manson, sure, check it out.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't think here's a casual music listener is going to say, "What the fuck is this shit?"
100%.
If you're interested in Charles Manson, yeah, then this is going to be something you might be interested in if you kind of want to get a glimpse into like, even though there's not a lot of it, there's just these slivers of his psyche shit that, again, I find that shit interesting. So
no, again, I'm not disagreeing with that.
I feel like you're attacking me, Paul.
No, not.
I feel like you're trying to get me canceled now.
No. Because from your point of view, I can totally understand it.
Yeah, I feel like I articulated it. Hopefully that.
Yes.
Again, I don't condone any of the shit that happened, but it happened, and
yeah,
I'm interested in that stuff.
Right, as a curio.
Yeah.
Sure, check it out. I mean,
like a William Shatner album.
Well, no, because
William Shatner was a lot better.
Yeah. And I mean, this is by far the worst album we reviewed because I don't even consider it a music album.
Oh no, Paul. No.
God damn you, Joe.
The Traveling Boot Band was way worse.
Okay. Yeah.
Charles Manson has more musical talent than Hulk Hogan, and I'm just gonna put that out there. That's the bottom line. Because Joe said so.
Fair enough. Joe, do you got any plugs?
No, Paul, I don't. Oh, and I just saw as for research for this album, I got really bummed out because it's a dark fucking story. So I had to share with Paul the ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I forever loved Tarantino. Because he does these like retcons of history, and I think if anybody deserved a happy ending, it's Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
And the fact that Cliff Booth fucking throws that can of dog food at Susan Atkins's face, and fucking has his dog.
A dog, yeah.
Just attack Tex Watson.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. Again, I love. I mean, the whole ending of.
Yeah, I mean that's not what happened, but I like.
Right. Well,
that he was able to, like, at least with his art.
Yeah, I mean, look at Inglourious Bastards. The ending of Inglourious Bastards is fantastic.
Yeah,
I get it, and it's like, yeah, give us these real whatever, like these happy.
They give them the comeuppance they never got.
Yes,
and that's what that might be like a form of porn. I think some people. I'm sorry. Because what these fucking people did was so horrendous that when I saw that in the theater, and I've read the books, and I was like, oh no, they're not gonna. I was hoping they didn't recreate the Sharon Tate murders, but when they go in the wrong house, Cliff Booth is tripping on acid, and he kills him, and then DiCaprio takes the flamethrower.
Yes, dude.
It's just like there's a sense of like relief.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
And it's like I'm living it's not the ending in real life we got, but it's the one we kind of all wish.
Always, we all wish that was how it happened. It's the one we deserved.
Yeah. It's the one. Yeah. So
it's the ending we deserved. But yeah, no, Joe. I mean, again, I look at it from the point of view of as a curio, sure, but as a musical album, no, I cannot. I can't recommend this as an album. No, I cannot. No.
Yeah, it's not musically. It's very uninteresting.
It's a mess. Again, it's not even. It's not.
Well, to be fair, I don't want to be fair. Like, it's just fucking terrible shit. But it's interesting to weirdos like me, Paul.
And you know what? And there are people, and that's fine. Again, I'm all for it being out there for that reasons. It's just, like I said, for Rate This Album, I cannot recommend it. I rate this album as garbage. So you don't have
the garbage dump. Oh, garbage dump.
So We are okay. So we got through this. You got no plugs. I got no plugs. Joe, you gonna ask me what we're gonna do next week?
I don't know, Paul. I think I'd rather cease to exist. I hope it's not anything illegal, Paul.
It's
Maybe I'll
not.
go down to Arkansas, where home is where you're happy.
Home is
Because you're a mechanical man, Paul. You're a mechanical man.
I am a
You
horrible.
son of a bitch. What are we doing next, Paul?
We are doing a request, and we are doing Imagine Dragons Evolve.
Evolve. Okay.
Evolve.
I don't know much about this band. So.
Yep, it's their third studio album that we are doing. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are they covered by Guns N' Roses?
I'm
Or the Beach Boys?
Or the Beach Boys. I don't.
Brian Jonestown Massacre?
Yeah, I unfortunately.
Marilyn Manson?
No. No, maybe some kids on TikToks.
Frontline Assembly, Paul?
Maybe Gigi Allen. Maybe Gigi Allen. Maybe Gary Glitter.
Devendra Banhart?
Phil Spector helped with the wall of sound.
It's fucking kind of gross how many people have covered Manson's music. Again, I don't condone what he did, and for me, this is a carry out, and like that they're covering it. Just I don't know to get like the notoriety. I think that's like
exactly
the shock value. I get shock value stuff, but that's like low hanging fruit for me.
Well, I get Marilyn Manson is. I mean, come on, he took the whole Manson last name for that shock value.
But that was all part of the
right.
The first part's Marilyn. That was the whole gimmick. Was like. Good and evil.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, no, Kasabian's Savannah, Ranch. Kasabian got their name. Span Ranch got their name. Marilyn Manson got their name. Crispin Glover.
Good old George McFly, Paul.
Good old George McFly fucking did it.
Hello, anybody there?
Obviously not.
McFly.
Don't cover Manson.
Biff was right.
I'm thinking.
Is that where we got to, Paul?
We've got to the
this Charles Manson review. Biff from Back to the Future was right.
Biff was not the bad guy. Son of a bitch.
We've gone through so. We've been on a journey, Paul.
We've gone through the looking glass and we're on the other side, sir. We will never be the same after this album. Yeah, I just, fucking Christ, Joe. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, here we go. Here we can see. So it was Charles Manson on lead vocals, rhythm guitar, and Tapani. It was Bobby Busoli on electric guitar. It was Steve Clem Grogan on the bass. It was Paul Watkins on the French horn. Oh, there was a French horn in there, apparently.
Paul Watkins, yeah. Paul Watkins, I believe he escaped after the murders.
Yeah, I think so. And then Gypsy was on the violin and backup vocals. Diane Lake was on the recorder. Mary was on the flute. And Squeaky.
Here's that, so, that reach, man, like fucking in the 70s, Squeaky tried to assassinate Gerald Ford.
Yeah.
Man, the story is so like
it's out of control.
I hate sounding like a weirdo, but it is fascinating.
No, it is.
Fucking read Helter Skelter, because it's so fucking surreal. Yeah, it is. Like, fuck. Squeaky from. Jesus Christ.
Squeaky.
Produced by a guy who's worked with the Rolling Stones, Frank Zappa, Emmylou Harris.
Think about that story in your life. I survived an encounter with the Manson family.
Not only that, he recorded and produced an album by him.
How did they not? I mean, do you not think there were some nights where he thought he was going to get fucking killed by them?
That was another interesting thing in the Helter Skelters. How the people who left were so paranoid that they would get killed. Because that's how far that shit got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Mm. Dude, and again, I would be worried. Like I said, I mean, I would be terrified. Like, oh my God, they're gonna come at me because I fucked up their music album. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very much could have happened too. You never know. Like they could. It's fucking terrifying.
It's
Some bitch, Paul.
It's fucking scary, dude.
Thanks a lot, Dale Carnegie. You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. Dale Carnegie, you son of a bitch. No, it was all fucked up, dude. It was all, I don't know. It's, I just don't have, yeah. So, but next week we're doing Imagine Dragons.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, do you like Imagine Dragons?
God, do you even listen when we're talking, Paul? I said I don't know anything about them.
How about you imagine dragging these nuts?
Paul, get your shit together.
Joe, how about you imagine dragging these nuts across your face?
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Oh, you'll pay. Don't think you'll pay.
I just spent my water. God damn it. I spent my water. Oh.
You squirted, Paul.
Ciao. This is a safe. I need new pants.
You all right there, Paul?
No, I'm fucking broken. I was the Charlie Manson and been dragging my nuts across your face jokes. All in one podcast. What is happening? Shaboodoo. Okay. Joe, do you want to take us out?
No.
Can I find the fucking... No, I don't want to share the screen. Hit the fucking rewind.
Did we love you? Did we hate you? Do you even care? Yes, you did. We're the best damn review team out there. How did we rate your album?